Ladies and gentlemen, SuckItUpUSA.com presents Suck It Up MMA Live. No excuses, no quit. With your hosts, positioned firmly in front of the control board, and out of the red corner, Tom McManus! Across the desk, and out of the blue corner, Larry the Professor Sheely!
Our guest, Stephan Kesting, is a grappling expert, okay? He has helped tens of thousands of grapplers get better at their game. He's very much into anti-bullying. He's a black belt in many different arts. And tell you what, I have never met Stephan Kesting, but sounds like he's my kind of guy, Larry.
He is. He's everything we stand for. Guy, like you said, just a very good martial arts background. We're very well thought of in the industry because he's a teacher.
Yeah.
He's a teacher. He goes, he learns, he brings it back, he teaches, shares it in various formats, from being published, online programs, just got it going on. Now, what I like, too, is he's a firefighter by trade.
Yes, right.
Pretty cool.
God
now,
bless him.
I got a text the day before yesterday. Hey, good news, bad news. I got to work, but I'll be on call. You want to go for it? Let's go for it. You know, and it's 5:30 there where he is now. So he's ready to suck it up.
Beautiful.
And get the ball.
Well, I tell you what, you know how we feel about the firefighters, police officers, military. They give up their life, and I just watched a little bit of Backdraft that was on TV.
Uh-oh.
So I'm even, you understand these guys are true heroes. And I tell you what, it sounds like Stephan Kesting doing the right thing. So we are going to talk about how to defeat the big, stronger opponent, one of his more recent DVD series that he's put together. So looking forward to that. Let's welcome him in, though, to Tom McManus Uncensored, live at the Loft in Jacksonville Beach. Stephan Kesting, good morning. Thanks for your time this morning. Welcome to the show.
Hey, good morning, Tom. Good morning, Larry. How are you guys doing?
We are doing great, and it sounds like, man, you're a busy man. You're teaching people how to get better on the mats, how to get better in life, whether it's physical fitness or learning some grappling techniques or defending yourself so you can be a confident individual. It sounds like you're a very busy man.
I'll sleep when I'm dead. I don't watch TV, but I have watched Backdraft a bunch of times, and I tell my coworkers often that I won't consider my fire department career complete until I myself have an axe fight on a gantry in a burning, exploding chemical warehouse.
Then you've come full circle, right? That is fantastic. All right, Stephan, how'd you get into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu? What got you started, and why so much love for that art?
Well, there's a whole generation of guys, and I would be one of them, who got started watching Royce Gracie in the early UFCs. And watching him, I think it was UFC 2 that I watched. And by the time I had watched UFC 3 and I'd say 2 and 3, I was like, oh my God, I need to learn this. What on earth did he do to defeat Dan Severn? That thing where he was like lying on his back and wrapping his legs around his neck or his head, and I'd done some judo before that, and I'd done some little bit exposed to shoot wrestling through Danny Nosanto, and I'd been exposed to some more traditional Japanese jiu-jitsu systems, but that was just such a big impetus and inspiration. And actually, before that, I've been lucky that I was training with a man called Philip Jelena in Montreal, which is where I was studying at the time.
Okay.
And we were studying Kajikembo, which is a stand-up martial arts system, and striking and some takedowns, little bit of ground. And we figured out that it was kind of important to roll around on the ground. So after class, we would just roll around on the ground, and I think that we were allowing each other to pull hair, to eye gouge, and to pull fingers, small joint manipulations. Fortunately, nobody ever got hurt too badly. I had long hair at the time, so every shower after class, it'd be like a giant hairball at the bottom of the bathtub. But that was that's not here nor there.
The no-holds-barred era, right?
But yeah, the no-holds-barred era, and we were interested in self-defense, and we didn't really know what we were doing.
Okay.
But it doesn't really matter. That's a cool thing about nowadays is that there's so much information out there that so long as you train it, there's so many people training in garages, there's so many people training in little groups without formal instruction who are getting pretty darn good because they have access to things like the internet, the DVDs, books, forums where they can ask. And it's an unprecedented time in martial arts history. I don't know what, well, Larry, you teach. I'm sure you see that all the time. But It's a good thing and a bad thing that people come in and say, hey, I saw this brand new, I don't know, leg lock setup from half guard. And then they're trying to pull it off.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's kind of cool.
It's very cool, and martial arts is great. I took it for football. I was more into taekwondo, a little bit of kung fu, just to be more flexible, a little bit more fluid. I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan what it stands for, especially with little kids and teaching them the arts and how important that is with discipline and creating self-esteem and confidence. And it's so good with anti-bullying, no doubt about that. You call BJJ the most sophisticated martial art in the world, Stephan. Explain that a little bit. Why do you believe that?
Okay. I've gotten into trouble about this online, and it's kind of fun. You're not, if you don't have them talking about you, then you're doing something wrong. And it's nothing against boxing. Boxing is super cool, super effective, super sophisticated. But if you and I are boxing, say, there's really only, I could be orthodox, you could be orthodox,
right.
I could be southpaw, you could be southpaw. So there's really only two combinations, right? It's orthodox versus orthodox, southpaw versus southpaw. And then there's let's say 6 punches, jab, cross, hook, body hook, uppercut, bolo punch. Now we're beginning to run out of punches. We can slice it a little bit finer, an overhand right. So really, you can only throw, say, 6 or 8 punches from 2 different positions. Now in jiu-jitsu, or on the ground, it doesn't matter whether it's jiu-jitsu or MMA grappling or submission grappling, you've got a lot of positions, right? You could be in the guard, in the open guard, in the closed guard, in the half guard, inside mount and knee mount, in the full mount, on somebody's back, the other person could be turtled, and then that's not even counting all the super weird positions that you end up in just in a scramble sometimes, and you're going, oh my God, I've never been in this position before, and I've been doing this for 15 years, and I've never been in this position.
Right.
I don't think boxers end up in that situation very often going, I have never seen this punch.
Yeah.
And then from each of those, say 6 or 8 positions, depending how you slice the pie, you can be on the top or the bottom.
Right.
So now we're talking roughly, 12 to 18 major positions, and 12 to 16. Sorry.
Okay. Yep.
And then from each of those positions, just think of the number of attacks. There's the number of sweeps, of reversals, of
that makes sense. I mean, it makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense to me. I don't know why. I mean, I understand, the boxing, industry and where they're at, and they could, be, defensive of it. But it makes perfect sense to me. I always felt, and I only did a little bit with Professor here, but it felt like, man, it's such a puzzle. You got to figure it out on the fly, and you got to be in great condition, and you use their movement to better your. I mean, to me, it was fascinating. It was a fascinating art. Don't get me wrong, I love the striking and all that, but it was truly fascinating. And I know that the gist of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu was so that the smaller person could defeat their bigger opponent. And I know your latest DVD series that's what it's titled, How to Defeat the Bigger, Stronger Opponent. Tell us, Stephan, if you can, in a nutshell, what are the key components to defeating a bigger opponent?
Well, a lot of it. Okay, first of all, you've got to understand that if you are fighting somebody who's your same skill level and same conditioning level, but you're bigger, then you're probably going to win. So size does matter when skill levels are equal. I think there's a bigger margin for upsets in the grappling world than in, say, the boxing world. There is no open division in boxing. There is no open division in kickboxing, although you could argue that K1 was an open division. Right. Except basically that meant that everybody got super huge and jacked on steroids and growth hormone, and everybody tried to get as big as possible. Whereas in jiu-jitsu, if there is a little bit of skill discrepancy does go a longer way. That's why you've still got guys like Marcelo Garcia doing well in the open division. So, you know, and tapping out guys who are 50% or 100% bigger than they are. And that's pretty cool to see. So, I think one of the things that I've been told and that I've experienced by numerous people is if you're going against somebody who's bigger in a grappling context, you just cannot allow them to establish the grips. The grip fighting is key, and if you watch really good high-level guys, especially going against people who are bigger, they just do not concede the grip. It's not,
right,
whether it's gi or no gi, if a big guy gets his mitts on you and starts dummying you around or breaking your posture. In jiu-jitsu, we talk about the importance of posture.
Right, right.
Well, if you're out of position, if you're getting ragdolled, you're never going to get your attacks off the ground. Bad choice of words. You're never going to get your attack started. You're never going to be able to defend yourself. So knowing what the correct posture is, or what some of the correct postures are, for each of those 6 to 8 positions that we talked about, is really super important, and that's your number one priority, especially, say, if you're fighting from the guard or in somebody's guard.
Right.
And you know, when I worked with Emily Kwok, who is a multiple-time world champion, and an old friend of mine, actually, on that latest DVD series, we spent a lot of time on grips, and it might sound boring, but you know what? When you start frustrating somebody who's a lot bigger than you in class, and they're going, oh my God, I can't even begin to pass your guard,
right,
or whatever, then that seemingly boring thing of grip fighting, grip fighting, grip fighting, grip fighting.
Makes all the difference in the world. Makes all the difference in the world. Hey, Stephan, tell me, kind of share with the audience how, okay, you all things equal, the larger opponent, you know, is probably going to have the advantage on the smaller. How about in just everyday walk of life? How would you approach just the average person who wants their kids to be safe or wants to get into self-defense, doesn't care about competing? How would you share, you know, the grappling arts with them?
Are you talking about a self-defense context there?
Yeah, yes. Just someone who wants to get in shape.
Right.
How would you approach the grappling arts with someone who is not a competitor? How would you sell them on it, if you will?
Well, I think the genius of the grappling arts is, if there is a genius behind it, and I believe that there is that you can deal with pressure and you can deal with intensity all the time for real. That was the genius of, I'm using that word a lot, I'll stop using it now, of Jigoro Kano when he took the traditional Japanese jiu-jitsu, where we had these super deadly killing techniques, you know, reach in, poke out the guy's eye, you know, kick him in the groin full force, and, you know, punch him in the throat. That's great, but
you run
how
out of
do you
students.
practice that?
But you run out of students when you do
run
that.
out of training partners. So we have these theoretical, and that's, you know, I did Kung Fu for years, but again, it's the same problem. We have these theoretical, super deadly techniques that you then never get to try in real life. And I've seen this. One of the funniest things I've ever seen was 2 guys who'd been training for years decided that they were going to do some full contact sparring. And it was their first time doing full contact sparring. And as soon as they put on the gloves and got hit in the face, all technique went out the door, and their fancy, flying crane picks out eyeball of mantis technique went out the door, both arms straight, throwing haymakers from behind their backs with straight arms. And I mean, it was funny, but I can't really blame them because they'd never experienced that intensity before. Now with the grappling, it's relatively safe, and you can experience that intensity day in, day out on the mat against people. You can, if you want to try to armbar me, Larry, you can try, or Tom, you can do it full force, essentially, not the actual finish, but getting there, and I will be trying to resist it full force. So you're learning to deal and do the same to you. You'll be able to learn to apply it against real resistance and against intensity. And I think just that helps when somebody gets in your face and somebody's trying to intimidate you and somebody's trying to push you around. It's not the first time in your life then that you've dealt with something for real. whether or not you take the fight to the ground, and there's pros and cons of grappling on the ground.
Sure.
But what about multiple opponents? Well, multiple opponents is a pretty tough situation anyway.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt about that. Stephan Kesting, we appreciate your time. Check him out, grapplearts.com. You're trying to better people, man. That's what we're all about as well. What do you, as far as looking at the fight game real quick, because we got to go to a break, but who's a MMAer out there that you always keep your eye on?
Oh, well, as a fellow Canadian and as a fantastic athlete, I got to say, I mean, it's no surprise, George St. Pierre.
Yeah,
I mean,
he is
stud. I've met him. He's trained with friends of mine as well. And, it's such a neat time in our sport when we can actually go and meet these people. It's, if you're a recreational basketball player, it's not like you can go and hang out with Kobe Bryant.
No, right. You're right.
But if you really want to go and, have a beer with, or whatever, with John Jones or roll around with him on the mat, you probably can do it.
Right.
And that makes this sport a super cool sport. It's amazing how approachable many of these
they are, man.
We've
had so many on my air here on 930 and on the Suck It Up Radio Network. They are, man. They're just confident people doing the good work. Stephan, appreciate your time, my friend. Check them out, grapplearts.com. How to defeat the bigger, stronger opponent. One of his more recent, DVD series that he did with multiple-time world champion Emily Kwok. So check that out. All right, Stephan,
I've bought
appreciate
several
you,
of
buddy.
his programs, too. I highly recommend it. Very good stuff.
Have a great day, buddy. Appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.
All right,
you too.
Yeah, thank you. That's great.
Yeah.
You know what? That grappling it's so true. It's so true. If you know what you're doing, you're gonna be able to defend yourself.
Yeah, no question.
This has been a production of SuckItUpUSA.com and EIGProductions.com. Heard exclusively on the Suck It Up Radio Network.